Good evening, Vice Chair Rojas.
Hello, sorry I'm late. I was trying to log on.
The fun of technology, right?
Right.
Glad you're
You
here.
can hear me okay? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Nice.
Glad you're here.
Thanks.
Tina, did you hear from any other commissioners this evening?
Yes, I did. Christina Ross is not available. Victoria Murray resigned, and I've been trying to get a hold of Rosalinda, just with no success right now.
Okay.
We do need one more person, one more commissioner to have a quorum.
Okay.
We also don't meet in December, right?
We were going to discuss that today.
Okay.
I'm happy to message her as well, Tina, if that's helpful at all.
I found her phone number and I am calling her.
Okay.
I sent an email earlier.
Okay. Thank you. How are you, Vice Chair Rojas? Are you ready for the holidays?
Never ready, but they're gonna come regardless. So
All right.
yeah, no, I'm excited. I think this year will be a little bit more. I mean, Halloween. It was my first Halloween here in Hollister, or second Halloween, I guess, but first official, or and it was just incredible. I mean, there was people everywhere. Everyone was decorating. Everyone was passing out candy. So I was impressed.
Oh, that's good. I know it's just it's everything feels like it's in Technicolor. I feel like because we have been
Right.
separated for so long, and same thing for
Right.
me. Like there were so many kids on our street, and it was just so fun to see everybody was in a really positive mood, and
Yeah,
so I'm
sure.
hoping that carries to the holidays, and I'm excited because my son is going to get to have his vaccination tomorrow, and so I'm just hoping for a lot of those families that have been waiting for this time to feel really comfortable and to feel really open with celebrating the season.
Right. I was a little worried about Halloween because the kids weren't yet, I guess allowed to be vaccinated yet.
Yeah.
But it's coming at a good time for the holidays, and I think it's a good sign. I'm seeing a lot of people on Facebook posting like, "Oh, got my kid their appointment for their vaccine." So I think that's a good sign. I think
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good holiday.
I'm wondering if it's gonna start to shift a little bit of the people that are reluctant and into moving toward a little closer towards doing it. I'm curious.
Right. We never know, right?
We never know, and that's the freedom we have, is to choose. So everybody has to go their own way. Do you celebrate? Will you celebrate here with your family in town?
I think so. We've made it a tradition to kind of always celebrate at our home.
Yeah.
It's a little bit bigger than our family's home, and it's a new tradition that we like to start. So
No, that's fun.
for sure, definitely will.
That's fun. I know, it's just like creating my Thanksgiving menu. I'm like, well, it's pretty pretty simple, but my husband's Italian, so his mother, they're both, born and raised in Rome. And so for them, Thanksgiving, they're like, what is this? And I'm like, they're like, turkey. Why are we having turkey? So they always want to do lamb, which I'm like, okay, I don't care too much for lamb, but I like to watch other people enjoy eating. So it's fine for me.
If it were up to my family, they would cater Panda Express for Thanksgiving. So
there you go.
Yeah. So I think it's okay to be non-traditional like that, right?
That's probably the most joyful part, right? Is kind of like, how do you make your own tradition out of like what you know and where you're from, and like kind of like the multicultural aspects, and so I think that's really fun.
I think in the beginning it's a little kind of like, well, my family celebrates like this, but my family celebrates like this, and I think over the years you just kind of start meshing both together, right? And you're just kind of making up your own holiday, your own tradition, and your own thing. So
oh yeah, I know, like in my family, because I'm from New Mexico, we're like, everything Mexican food, you know what I mean? So like at Christmas, and then we have like this like Italian Mexican fusion going on, we got the lamb, like the lollipop lamb chops, and like the pozole, which is like, I'm like, yeah, I can eat pozole for like 4 days straight,
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Did you hear from her, Tina?
I called her office, and I think that it was her husband that I spoke to. So he's going to reach out to her right now.
Oh, okay. We
usually will wait until 15 after the scheduled time of the meeting.
Okay. And then would we not hear the presentation because there's not a quorum, or is that only for decisions? How does that work?
I think that we can still hear the presentation. It'll just be informational.
Okay.
For us, but we wouldn't be able to vote on the bylaws, or I think that that's all we have. Yeah, the rest is all discussion.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to step away to grab a tissue.
So Anthony, what did you think of Treat Streets? Treat Streets?
I loved it. I was coming back and I was telling Matt, like, wow, like I didn't expect that many people to be out, that many people to participate. I loved it. I thought it was good. I was honored that you asked me. Thank you to judge. That was nice.
It was exciting, and I knew you would do, good job. You appreciate all the young ones going up there and
for sure
playing their costumes.
I thought the people that won deserved it.
Good.
The robot was extra cool. People got creative, so I was excited that people enjoyed it, took it seriously, and showed out. So
yes. So now they would like us to have a dog costume contest. So we'll work closely with our animal control for next year.
Yeah, I was like sitting next to Mayor Ignacio, and I was like, you guys should have put like a pet category. Like, who doesn't love to see animals in costumes? I mean, come on. So
well, we took a lot of pictures with animals in costumes, but on the 23rd, our animal control had like an open house along with a costume contest. So we didn't want to repeat it. We didn't want to step on toes. But yeah, we'll work with them closely next year, though. We started a discussion about it.
Right. I think you got to be the first one to say it, right? So then other people are like, oh, okay, they're already doing it.
That's a great idea. That's I think you're right, Anthony, is that like, it's a great test of like someone's humanity. Like, look at this dog in this costume. And if they don't think it's cute, you're like, I don't know how I can trust you.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
It was great. Did you have a chance to go, Amanda?
I did not.
It was a good time. We had crowded downtown, great event. They did wish we went a little longer. There was reasons why we couldn't go longer, but we will next in the future events of this.
Oh, that's
closing San Benito is, I'm sure, tough, right? It's a
It
main
is.
thoroughfare. It's a main thoroughfare in the city. So when you close it down, that's that many hours that people got to go elsewhere. Not that it shouldn't seem like it's a big deal, but I can understand how it could be.
We feel that way too. There was an incident where someone started throwing the bike racks down and driving his car through it because he
Oh,
was
geez.
the road was
No.
closed. So it was a little, you get thrown back. You're like, gosh, we're putting on this great event. There's, now it's attack to public safety. So,
Right.
well, hopefully we'll get together as staff and make sure that the barricades cannot be moved so easily.
Right.
That's shocking. Yeah, that's you would think people would be
Shocking,
more
but-
encouraged to go, well, I'm going to enjoy the walkability of downtown and just,
Right. Right.
but I guess I shouldn't be shocked. At this point in my life, I probably shouldn't be shocked.
You're always going to have a couple, or hopefully at least just a couple, if not none, of people acting out like that. So
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
I know San Jose, they do it a lot more now. They used to do it just once a year, but they'll shut down a couple of main streets just to kind of let people scooter, bike, walk, run, whatever they want to do. So that's a pretty cool thing, I think, too. I didn't get a chance to go to the drug-free run, but I did see pictures and it looked good. It looked, like there was a good turnout. So I don't run.
We had a good turnout. We reached our goal. It's usually not a lot of runners. We get it like 100 runners, but it's for a good cause.
Right.
And that's what we focus on. And that was another issue to public safety too. So we just have to, just be more aware of where we put our barricades so that
Right.
can't be easily moved. But we're working on it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Amanda, it's 6:18.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Good evening, everybody. Let's go ahead and call our meeting to order at 6:18, please. Vice Chair Rojas, do you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Hand over your heart. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag of the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
all. Thank you. Tina, do you want to do roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Sanchez. Commissioner Ross contacted me and let me know she would not be available to attend today's meeting. Vice Chair Rojas
Here.
and Chair Chiato.
Present.
District 1, that seat is vacant. Victoria Murray sent in her resignation. So we have a vacant seat for District 1, and I think that's Council Member Perez's district.
Okay.
Due to only 2 commissioners in attendance, it is a lack of quorum. So we wouldn't be able to vote on our bylaws, but we could continue and receive the report from Todd. If Todd is on, in regards to the general plan. And Todd, we'll go ahead and allow you to go first because it's more of an informational meeting at this point.
Thank you, Tina. Can you verify the posting of the agenda?
Yes, I forgot. I skipped a whole section. The agenda was posted at the Hollister Community Center and here at City Hall on Friday, November 5th, 2021, per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you, Tina. Can I have, do I have a motion for the approval of the October minutes? Can we vote on that?
No, Amanda, there is no
Okay.
motion because there's
Okay.
lack of a quorum.
Okay,
Or
thank you. Thank you.
Chair Gatto.
So now if we're moving Todd up, we can't really make a motion to do that, but how do we proceed?
No, we would just allow him to speak first.
Okay. So we can move forward with presentation by Todd Bressi. Thank you, Todd, for being here with us.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So does that mean my camera will be off and I will just speak to you? Which
Correct.
is fine. I just want to be sure the technology is what you're expecting. Okay. Well, I was sitting in on the 15 minutes we were waiting for the meeting to start. And I have to say, I thought I lived in the best little town for Halloween, but apparently I don't. The stories you were telling were magnificent, and I wish I could have been there. In a way, it made me think of part of what this arts and culture plan is all about. So thank you for inviting me to come and update you on the arts and culture element of the Hollister general plan update. As you know, this commission wasn't in existence when we began. So I'm happy to have an opportunity to address you, and to the extent possible, and I hope with Tina's assistance, we can collaborate with you as much as possible as this project completes. I'd like to talk to you about 4 things. I hope this is what you are expecting to hear. One is a very brief introduction into what a general plan update is. A second is a summary of the process that we have followed for the last year and a half on this general plan update. A very short synopsis of what we've learned in regard to arts and culture in Hollister, and then an overview of the key goals and actions that will be proposed. I will say we are still in the phase of drafting those. They've been through several drafts so far, the key recommendations. So it's a very good time to speak with you. I can talk to you about what we're working on. I hope it's appropriate for me to say I'm also happy to follow up with any of you after this meeting if you would like to have further conversations. So as to the general plan update, the city of Hollister is has been working for about 18 months on a process to update its general plan, which is a document that guides the development in the city and has about a 20-year time horizon. So it's a very long-term, very basic, fundamental document that shapes the city's growth and development policies. Sections of the general plan, which are mandated by state law, address land use, housing, open space, circulation, economic development, public services, infrastructure, emergency preparedness, and community health. Also, cities are allowed to add other chapters to their general plan of topics that are of interest to them. And cities sometimes add chapters on arts and culture, as Hollister has chosen to do. It is very unique for a city of this size and for a city of Hollister's type to have an arts and culture element. Generally, you will find them in cities that are larger and cities that are more urban. They're more common in Southern California than in Northern California. So, what you'll typically see is a city of 250,000 people, and like in Riverside County or Orange County, doing that, and they're investing in things like art centers and things like that. So it's very unique for kind of city with such a rural and agricultural kind of setting, and of a city of Hollister size to do this. And so first of all, that's a very commendable thing for Hollister to invest in this. So as I said, we've been working on this for about 18 months. Formally, the process was kicked off in June 2020. There is a general plan advisory committee. I believe there's 3 people on it that council has appointed, which began meeting in June 2020. Our team, the plan is being led by Placeworks, a consulting firm, and I'm a sub-consultant to them. I'm actually based in Philadelphia. So it's 9 o'clock for me where I am. We all prepared reports on existing conditions in Hollister in last September, a year ago. And then throughout, also concurrently throughout the summer of 2020, held several workshops to draft a vision statement for the general plan. And that statement was issued in October of 2020. The next task we did was to develop a memo that explored a variety of policy options across all of these different topics that I described to you. And then there were a series of public meetings by the GPAC, the General Plan Advisory Committee, in April and May. Each meeting tackled a different topic. And the meeting in which we discussed the policy options for the arts and culture element was, I believe, on May 9th. 2021. And that's just about when you guys were getting started. I think council just about that time had passed the I guess it was a resolution or ordinance creating this commission. So since then, we've been working, as I said, on once we received feedback from the GPAC and the public at that meeting, we've been working on recommended goals, policies, and actions, and our team is in the middle of drafting them. It has been very disappointing to me in the era of COVID that it has not been easy for me to get to Hollister to work on this. I was only able to visit Hollister in September. When I was traveling to California for other reasons, I did stop in Hollister for a day, and the Arts Council team was very helpful to me and showed me around. And I was glad to have a chance to do that. As you can imagine, it's hard to do this work without actually being in a place. Throughout that period, I have attended several of the meetings of the Public Art Review Committee virtually. And I've conducted about 20 interviews with arts leaders, businesses, organizations, and artists. The Public Art Review Committee did issue a letter of recommendations on arts and culture back in the spring, which we received and commented on and incorporated many of its recommendations into our own policy options. And as I said, we had a GPAC meeting on arts and culture in May, and I visited in September. So that's what we've done to date. I think from this all, so part 3 is what we've heard, what we've learned. I think the general overview I could summarize is through this input, we received strong direction for a general plan that focuses on strong and stronger collaboration between government, education, business, nonprofits, and artists. Second, making sure that everyone in Hollister has a chance to participate in artistic activities, and that the artistic activities that are promoted and supported here are truly authentic expressions of people's creative lives, cultures, and practices in Hollister. Making sure there's art in public places, and that there are also physical places for classes, performances, exhibitions, and other art activities that people enjoy and which enrich their lives and provide them outlets for expression. There's an interest in making Hollister a little bit more of a destination for the arts than it is now. The goal is enough to sustain the creative activities that are here, but not to create such a superheated environment that arts entities and activities are pushed away, as we see happen all too often. And then making sure the city gets out of the way so that artists, arts organizations, and creative businesses can thrive here. Those are the general messages I think we received. As I said, we're still in the process of writing up goals, policies, and actions. But they all flow from those general points that I mentioned. So I'll review some of the draft goals with you, and then some of the policies and some of the actions. So the draft goals we're thinking about are to establish and maintain strong cooperative civic arts leadership, in government, educational, private, and nonprofit sectors. And that's really what we're trying to put our finger on there, is that people like you, leaders, community leaders in the arts, it's important to build up that group of people who are leading organizations, businesses, programs, projects. It's the people who are in leadership that count. So that's the goal one. Goal two is recognize and support the diverse creative voices and practices of people and organizations in Hollister. There is a lot of creative activity that occurs at the grassroots in Hollister, and that needs to be lifted up, recognized, and supported. Enable all Hollister residents to have broad access to the arts. I think one of the remarkable things about Hollister is the way that the San Benito Arts Council is supporting arts programs in the schools, which really give kids very good access, to arts experiences while they're growing up, and that kind of sets the tone that it's important for everybody to have access in some way, shape, or form. Goal 4: pursue physical planning and design strategies that support and give visual presence to the city's creative life. That means thinking about how art can be incorporated into infrastructure development, things that are built in the city. Ensure there are adequate facilities for production, presentation, sale of art, as well as opportunities for artists to live in Hollister, people with creative practices to live in Hollister. So that really means through zoning or economic development, to ensure that there are physical spaces where the arts and culture sector can thrive. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Develop goal 6, develop a distinct identity for Hollister as a regional destination for the arts, culture, and creative enterprises, recognizing that it operates within the larger San Jose region, but more specifically within a region that includes Monterey, Santa Cruz, Monterey County and San Benito County and Santa Cruz County. The 3 counties really operate as a mini ecosystem, but you're also part of the San Jose ecosystem as well. When you kind of talk to people about where they live and where they work and where they perform and where they sell, those are your kind of spheres for a lot of people. And finally, goal 7, develop ongoing funding streams for arts and culture programming and for long-term capital investments related to arts and culture. So those are the overarching goals that we are proposing. As I said, we're still noodling around with those a little bit to make sure they cover all that we've heard. Some of the key policies we're recommending are recognize that Hollister's creative life is expressed through formal organizations and programs, creative enterprises and businesses, as well as traditional cultural practices. I think there's a lot that happens in Hollister in people's backyards, in the parks, informally, as well as what you would see through formal organizations and businesses. Policy 2, use the city's Arts and Culture Commission as the primary advisor to City Council on priorities for arts and culture, planning, programming, and investments. I think that's why you were established, this commission. Again, incorporate public art into private developments, especially downtown projects, civic institutional projects, and revitalization efforts. And develop policy 4, develop strategies for managing public art that the city owns, including maintenance, conservation, documentation, interpretation. That was a specific recommendation of the Public Art Review Committee. And then some of the key actions, not all of the actions, but some of the key actions recommended. Establish a city staff position to serve as liaison to arts, culture, organizations, and creative enterprises, focusing on matters such as funding and event coordination. The word established is a tricky one. I think the guidance we got from the GPAC was to use existing staff, as Tina is working with you now. So I think we're going back and forth on what that means at the moment. Assign staff to work collaboratively with arts and culture organizations to obtain grants from regional, state, and national funders. I think the GPAC saw a key role of staff is to assist in grant writing and fundraising through that means. Evaluate the need, opportunities, and strategies for creating artist living and workspace. That might mean, for example, working with a consultant who's an expert in this to understand the housing market and in Hollister to see what kind of incentives or policies might need to be in place for artist housing and workspace to be constructed. Examine the need for a community arts center. So the general plan doesn't say what that art center should be. That's the big question, actually. So consider the mission, audience, function, operating entity, and funding, and determine whether to move forward. So I think there's a lot of talk in Hollister about creating an art center, but I think there needs to be further study of what its mission would be, what its functions would be, what its governance would be, what its funding would be. And then finally, evaluate the potential for an arts and culture district in Hollister, building consensus on location, goals, needs, and actions, considering both the downtown district and the concept of a naturally occurring cultural district elsewhere in the city. There's another action we're talking about, but I didn't see it in the most recent notes, which is to commission a placemaking plan. That was our creative placemaking plan. That was a recommendation of the Public Art Review Committee. So I think what you can see from these policies and actions is that the general plan, as I said, is a very broad, long-term document which sets the stage for other things to be in motion. It makes very few specific operational recommendations. And so what you see from these actions is the general plan is trying to identify what some of the priorities are of the city and then setting up the plate so that these things can be studied further in further planning efforts, because that is not the role of a general plan. The general plan is to say, here are the things we are going to work on over the next few years, and here's how we're going to work on them. So that is my overview in summary. I'm happy to discuss it further with you now, and would look forward to getting to know you a little better in future conversations.
Thank you, Todd. That was wonderful. If I could have said it better, I don't think I can. That definitely feels like the general plan does have an idea of what we as a commission are looking for to move on and to make bigger things happen. So that all sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Yeah, I agree. That gave me a lot of valuable information about kind of how we can create a bridge between our work and what's stated in the general plan, because we were kind of going not around in circles, but we were having some long discussions about what our mission and vision should be. And then we kind of came to the consensus that we really wanted it to align with the general plan. And I'm excited to also see it on paper, because I think for us, I feel like maybe our role is also in that kind of place where we need to do a little bit more research too, like you stated, Todd, about, the general plan stating what they want to do and kind of how they want to move forward, but that there's these, that it's a long game. And so I guess some of my questions, I guess, for the Arts and Culture Commission is like kind of what's our long game and like what's our short game in relation to the general plan. All of that sounds really great and really related to our work, and so it's motivating to me. And I just appreciate your time and kind of breaking down the structure. And I'm also excited to think about how our work on the Arts and Culture Commission can support the other chapters of the plan that you discussed, and how we can create collaborative relationships for the arts to be a part of some of those other chapters that maybe don't, exist with an art component in it, but that might serve that piece in some capacity.
Mm-hmm. to be honest, I haven't read a draft of those other chapters yet, or at least I haven't gotten through them all. But I think that's a very valuable suggestion. I'm sorry you don't have a quorum tonight, though. We have no actions to take on this matter. I guess I'd like to express to you and also to Tina that as we bring this process into its final stages, I would find collaborating with you to the extent that it's appropriate and possible to be very desirable. So, I'm happy to come back and talk with you more when you have more of your members present. I'm happy to talk with you offline if that's appropriate. First catch you up a little more since you guys just started operating, but also learn more about what's on your mind, what things you have been I would be very eager to learn more about what the commission has been talking about and what is you've already been identifying as the concerns you are bringing to the table. It'd be valuable to know those things. This is probably not the night to do that, but I think our team would benefit from that.
I did have a question. As we were thinking about kind of like our goals as public servants related to a mission and vision in correlation with the general plan, I was just thinking about, like, maybe Todd, maybe you could discuss a little bit kind of how you gathered the data that you did, and maybe that could help us and move forward, and how we might be able to gather some data moving forward in our work to support what what our community wants from us.
Mm-hmm. That's a tricky question because it's the data, it's hard to it's hard to say, like, oh, there are certain data sets about arts and culture out there that you can access that will lead you to to some conclusions. So some of the things I did do is I reviewed the grant lists that the San Benito Arts Council gave for its various granting programs, and identified who was receiving grants and read up on those organizations, which gave me began to give me a snapshot of who was doing what. For organizations that, one of the first things I learned is that many of the many of the entities receiving grants were not formal arts organizations. They were incorporated as nonprofits, often the arts, which is okay. It's not a judgment at all. But what it means, I learned from that, is a lot in Hollister occurs at the very, very grassroots level. For those organizations that were incorporated as nonprofits, I went to various databases and looked at their 990s, which is the filings they have to make to the IRS, which helped me learn about their scale of operations and the range of things they do. And truthfully, most of those were outside of Hollister, but elsewhere in San Benito County, like in San Juan Bautista. So in the end, I didn't learn a lot about that. That was specific to Hollister. I reviewed, to the extent I could, articles that I could find about arts and culture topics that are on the online newspaper database. And then like I said, I conducted interviews, but there's not a lot of quantitative data out there that I could use to build kind of analysis for the general plan. It's more about, I spent a lot of time just sort of talking to people. I reviewed a lot of documentation from the Arts Council about their programming. their catalogs, to give, again, that was more qualitative, and it helped me understand the kinds of things people were interested, the kind of work that was going on, the kind of people who are artists. But that's not quantitative data.
How do you suggest that we could get that data from our commission? Because I also feel that if we don't have our commission fully, gosh, what word am I looking for? Like fully developed, how do we find out that information, right? And you went to ask the public, but what could we do as a commission? What are your suggestions?
So is that two questions? What can you do as a commission, and how would you get more data,
Right.
more information?
Right, because I would like to know more about what the public wants, right? Because I feel like I want to work hand in hand with the public, but because we're not fully developed in our commission, it's kind of hard to, you're right, it's kind of hard to find what exactly the people want to see, what more, where maybe somewhere to take their children, or maybe, more events, or, could we help out in any way?
Well, in order, if you wanted to learn more about what the public was interested in, that would probably, what I would suggest is you do a sort of a kind of parallel strategy. One is, you can always do a survey of some sort, right? Commonly, you can do internet surveys and things like that. But I think probably in a city the size of Hollister, it would be also possible to do that just by showing up places and asking people. Like if there is a festival or a parade, just setting up a table and just standing out there and asking people. The data research like that is rarely going to be statistically significant, if you know what I mean. And nor does it need to be. This isn't you're not testing a new medicine or anything. So you don't really have to worry too much about that. I mean, I think it's more a matter of just making sure you intentionally show up in places where you're talking to people who represent a pretty good cross-section of the community, economically, culturally, and meeting them where they are, and it doesn't have to be something you just do at a fixed period of time. It can be something that's just constantly ongoing, You could just have a practice of showing up at, some meeting somewhere every month, and giving a little dog and pony show, so to speak, about the commission, and then asking people what's on their minds, and and then you're constantly in touch. So I think that not getting too focused on doing something that is, scientific, keeping in mind that you want to reach people in as many different places as you can, and the best way to reach them is to go to where they are and talk to them is probably a good way to just kind of collect an ongoing stream of data. If you actually need some official documentation, then you might need to do a formal survey of something, right?
Sure.
That's to answer the question. Your question is, what are people interested in? So that's how I would approach that question. And that's fun work, believe me. I mean, it might sound like a lot, but it's a lot. It's it's like people work, right? It's just go out and yeah. And if you're a people person, that's fun. If you have other questions like, so what should our art center be? Well, that you might need to do more kind of structured research for that kind of thing. Like you might need to do market research. Like, so what are the different models for art center? What are the art centers within 50 miles? And, how are they financed, and how are they funded operationally, and who performs there? And then you might need to do a more structured audience survey, study of like, well, what would people pay to see, or what would they come to see, or whatever. I mean, there are firms that specialize in this kind of research. when a community wants to do an arts center, they'll figure out through very careful analytical methods, and that you would probably need to hire a different kind of consulting firm for. And I just have to urge you, going into a conversation about creating a community arts center is just not a seat of the pants exercise. It is not something you do just on intuition. It's really worthwhile to invest a little money in someone who can help you build real solid data about what the community is looking for and what the kind of costs and benefits are.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. I did have another question also. I was wondering, Todd, if in your work developing this general plan for Hollister, if what information is gathered from neighboring communities, like you were talking about Santa Cruz and Monterey, that inform what we're doing here, or give us information about that ecosystem.
Yeah. I did two kinds of research like that, though I don't feel like I documented it. I mean, I documented it for my own purposes, but not in any kind of formal documentation. So I'd have to talk to my team about how that might work. But I did two things. One is I found every arts element in a general plan I could from the state of California and read them. I wanted to see how other communities approach this, what the kind of general types of things they covered were. And that's where I realized, came to the observation that I shared with you earlier, that what you're doing is very atypical. It's not bad at all. It's commendable, but it's not typical. And so there wasn't a lot directly translatable from one arts and culture plan to Hollister. You don't have a lot in common with a city in Orange County, so to speak. The second thing I did is when I really came to understand what Hollister is about, and this actually came through conversations with Jennifer Lane. She really encouraged me to look at smaller cities in counties that were more rural than urban. And so I looked at like the bottom tier of counties in California in population, and I looked at all of their arts councils to see what they did. Like to see what does an arts council do in a small county in California, where, what kind of programs do they have? What do they offer? What role do they have vis-a-vis county government or city government? I also looked at all of the official arts districts that are recognized by the state of California or by the California Cultural Council as well, to kind of learn that. So I did that kind of external research. That's where I became convinced that the Public Art Review Committee was right in its request that the city undertake a placemaking plan, as opposed to a traditional public art plan. There's been one done in California, Mariposa County, I think it is. I did one very similar to San Benito County, but it's in the mountains, of course. It was a very valuable way of kind of working through a community process to identify opportunities for arts and culture programs and projects that I thought made a lot of sense for Hollister. So those are some of the ways I looked at comparative. I didn't look what are the 10 cities in the Monterey, Santa Cruz, Lower Santa Clara, San Benito County doing. I tried to look more at those other slices. Who's done a general plan element, and what are some of the more smaller counties throughout the state doing?
Thank you, Todd. I don't think I have any more questions at this time, but I'm sure that I'll have more, and I just feel thrilled and motivated. So I just appreciate your time and you know, talking about your process, and also just love the comment about, you know, doing that people work and getting out there and talking to people, because I think that's invaluable. So that's great advice.
Yeah. I'd like to make two comments in closing, if I could. One is something that has been, because I haven't been able to get to Hollister physically as much as I'd like, you know, I haven't been able to have a lot of casual interactions with people. And something I'm convinced of is that there are a lot of these sort of informal but highly important cultural practices in Hollister that need to be at the heart of this all. And I've heard little glimpses of things. Like I heard of a person who is a musician who has been around for a long time and was involved in the agricultural workers organizing, and sang a lot with the you know, Chavez and those folks who were leaders of that movement, who still lives in Hollister, and he occasionally performs in cafes. I thought, wow, how amazing is that, right? That's like just an amazing bit of history. But he's not part of an arts group. He's and then, you know, I've heard that there's a lot of traditions in the Mexican American community of like poetry and I guess we would call it here in Philadelphia spoken word, but a mix of music and poetry, which is highly informal. You know, there's not like an arts organization that does this. It's just something that people get together and do. And again, they might perform informally, but I begin hearing things like that, and I think that that's the kind of creative life that, if we could put our finger on it, recognize it, support it, would really make Hollister one of a kind. But I just haven't been able to pinpoint it. And as I've tried to talk to people, you know, if I tried to talk to people about it, sometimes I think I'm either missing it or maybe they don't recognize it as a formal arts and culture thing, because it's just like what we always do. And I really hope that Hollister can get at that, you know, to figure out how to support that and not lose that. And then, so that's one point. The second point is, as you, at the beginning of your meeting, you know, when you had to like announce that the agenda was posted and so forth, our process and your process, we work in very formal ways, structured by state laws of governing public process and things like that. And what I'd like to say is I would love to be able to work with you as closely as possible, given those process constraints we work within. I don't want you to feel like I'm going to hide behind a process to be inaccessible. I would very much like to be able to connect with you in a way that you feel productive, because we are here to help you do a plan. And you are going to be the keepers of that plan, along with City Council. So I would like to do everything I can to be supportive of your role in moving everything forward in Hollister. That's those are the things I hope I can impart as a takeaway.
Thank you, Todd. No, I think I think the whole commission would very much appreciate that.
Okay, well, let's keep in touch. I guess that will happen through Tina and my minders as well. But thank you again for your time this evening. I enjoyed the opportunity to meet you and to speak with you.
Yes.
Thank you, Todd. I look forward to working with you further.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Todd.
Bye. Good evening.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Tina, for putting that together. That was very informative.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Definitely a lot of highlights. Definitely, I think we're all on the same, you know, but how do we get there, right? How do we do it? How do we, I guess that's what our job is. And in the many months, we'll get it together, I'm sure.
Yes, I think that's our key question, is how do we get there? I think I mean, it sounded like he had just a lot of information, a lot of notes. So I'm going to reach out to him and see if he had that in writing, and if he can
Right.
email it to me, then I'll forward it to everyone else, because it was a lot of information. I was trying to write it all down, but it was a little overwhelming. I can go back and I can listen to the video, but I think I'm going to reach out to him, ask him for some of that information.
And definitely, it sounds like a lot of that stuff is years in the making, I'm sure, but just to have a plan, right? A plan of how we want to get there, I think, yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that he wants to keep in touch and work with us. That puts an extra head, you know, in our group. So very nice.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just so pleased because he's done so much legwork already. And I think all of that information can be really valuable to us and kind of put us ahead of the game a little bit in our work. If we could only pass our bylaws this evening, that would have been really exciting. Yeah, and I know, I don't know if we need to make a motion to, oh no, we can't make a motion because we don't have quorum. If we're going to postpone our December meeting, but maybe, I don't know if, you know, how you feel, Vice Chair Rojas, about having the December meeting so that we could pass the bylaws so we're ready to go in January. But I don't know, Tina, how do you feel? Or if that's just a precedent that December is not, we don't have a meeting. I don't know.
The only ones that do not have a meeting in December is our Parks and Recreation Commission. That's probably our only commission, only because they meet the last Tuesday of the month, and that last Tuesday usually falls under Christmas breaks, Christmas vacations. So that's why they choose not to meet, and that's in their bylaws that they don't meet July and December. But our commission, I'm sorry.
If we were to have it December, it would be the 14th.
Yes.
Of December. And you said that we can't vote yes or no on that? Would it just happen regularly as planned?
It would happen regularly as planned unless the commission decides that December, they just would not like to meet in December. And because we did not pass the bylaws, we can add it into our bylaws that the ACC will not meet in the months of July and December. But it's only can be discussion, you know, an informal discussion, I should say, because we don't have a quorum.
I mean, I guess we're still going to kind of be, I mean, even if we pass them next month, I don't know if that would give us like kind of like a jump start on the new year for like new business, or if, what do you think, Vice Chair Rojas?
I mean, if it's as regularly scheduled, I would not mind to continue just to kind of pass it, but I also understand that December is a busy month. But if there's also, if there's not enough to us to even vote yes or no, then, I mean, do we really have, you know what I mean? Do we really even have, it just seems like it's going to happen anyway. So I say yes.
Yes, to a meeting in December.
Yes.
Do you have any feedback, Tina, what your thoughts are on that? Like that would put us in a, I mean, would it put us ahead a bit? Or, I mean, I think, you know, we could not have a quorum next time too, but hopefully.
Hopefully we do have a quorum at our next meeting, but I don't think it would be, I mean, did you guys review the bylaws? Did you recommend any changes? Does it fit kind of what our ideas are? If you guys are good with that, then the rest of the commission hopefully is in agreement, and in January we can just pass it, and then we kind of move forward from there. But it's strictly
I
up to our commission, right? At this point, I can send an email out
Right.
and just ask everyone to respond. Not respond all, just respond to me.
The only thing I didn't do a super close read because I was primarily looking for our recommendations that because we voted and then rescinded the vote because we didn't have the element of park in there. So that was the only thing I was looking at, and I could not find there in those bylaws where we stated that, because I thought it was under, I thought we were adding a section around like ad hoc committees.
Oh, it was it was ad hoc committees. I thought it was the duties and responsibilities of the commission.
Oh, okay. I
But
guess I
if
didn't see
you're-
where it was.
It's section 4, the duties and the responsibilities of the commission, but it does not state anything study and consider along
Okay.
about an ad hoc. Okay.
So that was the only thing that because I think we determined that we did want to add that specifically because Park doesn't really know what their role is right now, and we're waiting for direction from the commission on what their role is. And then, so I think if we could add that, then I'm okay to wait until January, and that could be potentially some time where we could think of some, or get some recommendations from the commission for other agenda items, assuming that the bylaws will be passed as like one of our first items. That would be my recommendation.
In January. Are you talking? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay to
so-
wait till January, and then we can maybe, have a little time to, because I know, like you're saying, Vice Chair Rojas, to the holidays and stuff like that, but I'd be eager to dive into the work that if Todd provides you the documents, I'd be really eager to like look through that and to kind of start to think about how we can align our work, and maybe have some discussion about that in January after we pass those bylaws with the park element added.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Okay, so we're looking for the role of the Public Art Committee. Okay. I will add that information. And I kept looking at those policies too, and I couldn't remember what it was. So I went back and read the minutes, and it said responsibilities. So sorry, I'll work on that one too.
I couldn't remember where we had set it up, but I knew that it was a piece that we wanted to have. So
If I recall, I think we wanted to add it under section 8. And originally I had written down roles and responsibilities under section 8, but it was the roles of the Public Art Committee under section 8.
okay, that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And then I said, oh, we already have, the duties and responsibilities of the commission under section 4, but now it's coming together. So the role of, I'm just going to add that Public Art Committee here.
Okay. Is there, let's see, let me go back to, sorry, I was going to go back to the agenda. Tina, did you want to give an update on the impact fees?
Yes, at this time, I do not have an update. Our development services director has been out of the office for some time. So he wasn't able to give me an update.
Okay.
But I think that unless I reported it last month, but the last report was commercial building. We were going to take a certain percentage from the commercial buildings, and I asked him what that percentage would be. And he's working on that information with the advisors at this point.
Great.
That's all I know. And I asked him for an update, and he wasn't available.
Okay. And then we had, we can't do we heard our information from Todd about the general plan. What about new business number 2, public art policy? Did you have an update on that, Tina?
I don't have an update, but I was more or less looking for some sort of direction, or if there, if the commission wanted to discuss, they would like to see include in this public art policy, or just create one, and we move forward.
I guess I'm unclear. Are you saying, do we want to discuss including a public art policy in the bylaws?
Not in the bylaws, but
Okay.
creating its own policy
Okay.
to replace, we would replace the parks policy, and it would be this the City of Hollister Arts and Culture Commission kind of public art policy.
Oh, okay. And which we could basically use what they have in place, or what Park had in place, and to have a discussion about that and see if we wanted to add or subtract or anything, or if it looked pretty cohesive, we could adopt it as our own policy.
Yes, I just was looking for some direction.
I think that would be a great discussion item for next time, and maybe resend that to everybody. I think I have it printed out, and then just see if there is any recommendations for changes. It's probably pretty solid, but what do you think, Vice Chair Rojas?
No, I agree. Yes, let's get some extra input on it. But I think it's pretty I think it's a pretty in line, but it's not just the two of us.
Yeah, and there might be something in that general plan that would help us, or update that in some regard too.
Sure.
Okay. I will get that information too then.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds great. Is there any commissioner comments?
Not at this time.
Tina, do you have any comments?
All I wanted to report on was our trick or treat street event that was a big hit, and just acknowledge our Vice Chair Rojas for being one of our judges, kind of spending the time out there. His Commissioner Rojas, you're always very supportive of the recreation events, and we
Yeah, absolutely.
appreciate you being out there with us. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. And just to let our commission know that we are doing in partnership with the Downtown Association, we will do a tree lighting event at the annual Lights On Parade. The tree lighting will happen at 7 o'clock. And after 7:30, Santa comes in, and pictures going to be taken with Santa. We are working on a Christmas in the Park event, December 18th. And then an ice rink that will be December 17th, 18th, and 19th. So I'll be sending you guys flyers, but those are just updated on our kind of recreation type of events.
Thank you,
Sounds like
Tina.
good stuff.
It does. Sounds
What-
like magic, holiday magic.
Holiday magic. One more thing that I didn't mention, and that is the city will celebrate 150 years of existence in August of 2022. And the recreation staff, along with city staff, will take on that task of putting on an event. So there's probably going to be some sort of logo that's created, and we'll come back to our commission for approval. So if there's any ideas on how we can get the word out, just let me know.
Definitely will. That's wonderful. Wow, 150 years, huh?
Yeah. Are you going to do a call for artists to create the symbol?
That's an idea we kind of have throwing around, just so we can work with our, it's important for our community, especially with the new Art and Culture Commission, that our commission be a part of the process, and kind of vote on the artwork that could potentially be out here for another 150 years.
Mm-hmm.
So yes,
Wow.
call. And then, so before we can do that, though, we do need to have in place our bylaws and our public art policy.
Right.
Great. I I had one question before we go on to the sharing. For the District 1 vacancy, do they just fill out an application and send it to their council member? If I don't know anybody offhand, but just if that opportunity comes up.
There's an applicate, if they go to the Hollister website under city clerk, there's an application online, a similar process to what our current commissioners had to do.
Okay.
And then it'll be where it says vacant District 1, which is Councilmember Perez. Once it's completed, I would think that Councilmember Perez will review it and then make his decision.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to have our full group capacity here.
Right.
I would just like to announce that the San Benito County Arts Council, we used to have 2 spaces downtown, art space, and then the annex. We had an office was art space, and the annex is where we had classes. We've moved out of both spaces, and we have a new space now at the old train depot down at the end of 5th Street, and we just moved in this week. And on December 3rd, we're going to have a grand opening. And we're going to have a Small Works art exhibition. And we have a Art of Eating meal pickup that day as well. So I wanted to invite the commission to that. It should be fun. And that was the only announcement that I have today.
I'm assuming that is good news. And yeah, I'll be there for sure. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes.
Any final comments, or we can set our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so our next meeting will be, let's see here, January 11th, which is my wedding anniversary. 19 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Past that 7-year itch. Now it's on to the third, I'm almost at 3 times 7 here.
Right. I almost never know what to say. Do I say congratulations?
Good luck. Yeah. You never know. You're like, are you
Well,
crazy?
Very good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, well, so I can't, do I make a motion? I can't make a motion, right? Because, okay, so I just say we're adjourning. Okay.
Yes.
So
right.
we are adjourning our meeting today at 7:18.
Well, thank you for staying with us and listening to the presentation. Very informal.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, I hope to see you guys at all of our other special events that are coming up, and I will send over all the flyers and information on those events.
Thank you, Tina, for all your hard work. I appreciate it. Have a great evening.
you.
Thanks for setting up that presentation.
Thank you.
Take care, Vice Chair Rojas. See you next time.
Thank you.
Have a good
Good night,
evening.
everyone.